There's now an AI that can write your content, follow up with your leads, and run your CRM for you, and it only costs about $100 a month. And I know how that sounds, but there's the thing. Most coaches and agency owners I talk to, and I've worked with more than 700 of them by now, they're all stuck doing the same work every single day. They're writing the posts, they're chasing the follow-ups, they're the ones keeping the business running. They are the bottleneck in their own business. And look, I get it. I completely get it. You think the way out is to hire another VA or a setter or buy another tool, and I thought the same thing for multiple years, but you just end up with more things to manage and you're still stuck in the middle of all of it. Now, most of you have probably used something like ChatGPT, right? We all use ChatGPT. We all know how it works and how it goes. Maybe use some Claude, but you ask a question, right? And it gives you an answer back. And this, what I'm going to show you today, goes way further than that. And this AI actually does the work for you. So you talk to it like it's someone on your team, and it goes and gets things done on behalf of you when you're not even there. And honestly, the best part of it is you don't need to be technical at all. So for this, one specific, I sat down with Moritz, and Moritz builds these AI systems for coaches and agency owners. And together, we're going to show you exactly how it works and how you can build your first one with you step by step. So if you're a coach or agency owner and you're tired of being the one doing everything yourself, then stay with me on this one, because this might be the only thing and the only system you might actually need. Good to see you all. I hope everyone is having a great day and a great start of the week. Today we have Moritz here. I'm going to just do an introduction and I'm going to let you, Moritz, take it away from there, because we have a very exciting session and I'm glad to see a lot of you guys also jump in. So first things first, Moritz is someone that actually joined us a couple of weeks ago, and from that conversation that we had, actually Andy, who is sitting here as well, and maybe you guys will also talk with Andy, he suggested and came with an idea, me too, that we should do something with Moritz, because we're talking about AI a lot, but I think we can do, there's so many endless possibilities with AI. And when we looked at Moritz and what he does, and we told us what he does, we were really, really excited about like the possibilities that we could do internally for ourselves, which we're doing now on the content side of things. And then a couple of other things as well that he's doing, which could also be beneficial to you guys, because he actually works specifically with people like us, like coaches, agencies, and all these things. So I asked Moritz, hey, would you like to do a masterclass and tell the people a little bit more about, the different strategies and the frameworks you have? And now we're sitting here. So Moritz, thank you so much for taking the time. We're super excited. One thing that you guys can know as well is Moritz will be presenting a couple of things, showing you guys a lot of things. But if you have questions in between, ask them in the chat. Other than that, there will at the end maybe be a Q&A. So Moritz can also answer your questions and guide you in that way. And we make it a great session. So I'm going to stop talking and we can get right in. Moritz, feel free to take it away. And yeah, let's make it a good one.
Cool. Thanks so much for the intro, Stefan. And yeah, super excited to be here. And yeah, just been really positive so far in your communities and like meeting all the people around you. And it's been great. So really looking forward to this masterclass here. Let me just start sharing my screen and then we can go from there. You should see my Excalibur board here.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, as you said, I would love to kind of go through this agenda in this call. So I'll start with a bit of an intro, and then I want to talk a bit about kind of what has happened so far in, like, if we think about AI, in which era we're currently in, and that will give us like a bigger picture view at what is happening right now. And then I want to make this session with a lot of demos, because just looking at a board or like a presentation is boring, and I want to just like show you how these tools now actually work in my personal setup. And so we will like actually go into these AI systems, and I'll like try to show you as much as possible from it. Also, let's please make it a working session. Like if you guys have any see anything and have any questions, just like let me know and we can go straight into it. We don't necessarily need to wait till the end. And I'll show you a bit about my Claude OS system. So that's kind of this like intelligence system that is that is like operating my my AI system now, and into the architecture of it and how to build it up and how you guys can build it up yourself too. What I also help clients implement, and yeah, more demos. And then in the end, I'll also show you a couple of other systems that are more like tailored to solving a specific problem. For example, the content system that is like actually helping you like produce more content, or the newsletter system, which is also something I've built recently. Sound good?
Perfect.
Cool, cool. All right. Yeah, then quick intro about myself. So I've been in tech and software specifically for over 10 years now. I have a product management background, so I was kind of always working in software businesses, but like more on the product side. So not coding myself, but like working together with other coders and building out the product. And I started creating content about AI for since about 3 years. And obviously since AI is like quite an in topic right now, it's been like received quite well. And I've like built up a couple of businesses during that time. Most recently, the AI agency, which is also why I joined Stefan's program here. So yeah, it's about me. And now let's have a look at this, what I mentioned, the kind of high level overview of like what era we are in right now in regards to AI. So I found this statistic here that I saw pretty interesting. And it basically says that the length of an AI task, the length of a task that an AI can do is doubling every 7 months. And it's kind of similar to, if you know the Moore's law. It's like, like with the chip being more performant and chips getting smaller and smaller. And this is similar what's happening with AI now. And it essentially means that, these systems are getting smarter and smarter, and they can do more autonomously, and that's growing exponentially. And so I think what this clearly means for, especially for business owners, is that like as these systems grow exponentially, it becomes for business owners like almost like an arms race who can deploy these faster into their business. Because as you deploy them into your business can use that leverage and also, grow in that same speed with the agents. So I think this just really shows like how important I think it is right now for businesses to like implement these things as early as possible. Yeah, so what have we kind of seen in the AI era so far? So you maybe remember the time when ChatGPT came out. Like I remember it pretty vividly. Over 3 years ago now, it was like November, yeah, 3 years, 3.5 years ago. And it was like a pretty crazy moment to me because for the first time I kind of felt like chatting to like an actual intelligence, right? And like you had this thing that now felt kind of like an intelligence, but obviously there were still lots of mistakes, and people started noticing more and more of these things. Like if you used it in the first couple of months, there were like super many hallucinations. It would be kind of very stupid about some things. Sometimes it would answer some things very brilliantly, and then sometimes it would still make these like really weird mistakes, which actually it still sometimes does today, but this has definitely gotten a lot better. And so at that time, we were in this chatbot era, and I would say we were in this chatbot era for like about 2 years or 2.5 years. And in this era, there was also like AI automations were starting to become a bit of a thing, especially around tools like Zapier, and N8N got very popular for during a certain time. And AI automations, obviously, like if you've seen these like N8N YouTube videos, it's usually these people showing off their N8N automation, which is like like this huge graph of like all of these little steps. And that's kind of the era that we were in before. But now, since about, I would say like maybe 4 or 5 months, we've entered sort of a new era. And this happened because there was a leap in how smart a model release became. So one model that was released around December, that was Opus 4.5 by Anthropic. It got kind of over this threshold of being so smart that it can now actually reliably do agentic tasks. So it's not just that you chat to it and it gives you good answers. You actually chat to it and it can create a plan and do like certain steps of that plan by itself, and then return back to you with an answer. And this is what's happening now when you when you use these tools. They're actually like doing several steps in the background and can plan these steps and then go through these steps and do them for you. And so what's happening now is actually more of a like if you look at it from a like automation perspective, it's actually more like that you just have kind of this like smart intelligence sitting there. It's connected to all of your tools in your business. And then underneath that, you can, or because of that foundation, you can then pretty easily build out these systems, which previously you had to like meticulously build out step 1 by step 2 and so on. Now you can build these out pretty easily by just talking to the system and just telling it to build it for you. Yeah, so that's kind of the era that we're in right now. Does that make sense so far?
It does, for me at least.
100%.
Cool. Okay, so I would say before I go into a bit more detail of kind of how this system exactly looks like for myself and how I've set it up, I just want to show you a couple of examples of what it can do, because that just makes it more tangible. So the first thing I'll do is I want to just copy this because before I do a demo, I don't want it to like give out all kinds of confidential information. So I'll just say, I'm doing a demo, and if you output stuff, just make sure to redact any sensitive information. And then I will start with this first example here. So let me copy it. It says, get the transcript from this video and write 3 similar scripts for my offer, then save them to my Claudia page in Notion. And for the video, I think I'll just go and I'll take something from Stefan's page. Yeah, there you are. Okay, I'll take a reel from your page. Maybe the recent one. Just get that link. And so let's say I like that video, and then I want to, write something that's similar to that. So I'll hit that off. And by the way, this interface that you see here, this is from the Claude desktop app. And so normally people use the Claude chat. That's kind of the first thing that they came out with. You can imagine it like the ChatGPT is like just chatting with the AI.
Moritz,
But
by
then
the way,
they
we don't see any interface. You said this interface, so I don't know if you meant to screen share or something, but we don't see anything.
You don't see it? Okay.
At least I don't. I don't know about the other guys.
Okay, sorry. Then let
No worries,
me
man.
share again. Maybe I didn't share the full screen.
We didn't hear you, Short.
I could see it.
Yeah, I could see it too. We saw the Claude screen. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my bad then, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good. So you see this dark screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. So yeah, I'm in the Claude desktop app, and I'm switched here into the code. It's called Claude Code, but it's the desktop version of Claude Code. And then I sent off this prompt here, and it says get the transcript. And you can see here in the background, it's kind of like using several tools to do that. So this is this agentic behavior that I was talking about. And it's actually using a tool to like basically research that link, get the Instagram transcript here. And if I click into it, you can see it's actually getting the real transcript. And then, what's it saying? So yeah, this is Stefan Angelovic's style, this confession paradox format. And now it's starting to draft the 3 scripts that I asked it to do. Drafting now. And now it's done drafting. It's actually saying, okay, now I'm using Notion Create, which is another tool to actually create these scripts inside of my Notion, right? So it ran 2 commands, read a file. Okay, so here at this point, it was actually already done. And then it just started like saving a few things to memory. And then now it's giving me the output. So here it's saying 3 Agent OS scripts written in the same DNA. Okay, this part was redacted. And then save to Claude content, Agent OS short form. So we can actually go into my Notion and just have a look if it's there. So it should be in my Claudia inside of my Notion. Yeah, this was the test one I did earlier, and this is the one that was just written. So these were just now written into Notion, right? So you can see several things happening. Like one, it's it like obviously has some kind of connection to fetch something from the web. It has some kind of tool to like fetch the transcript, and then it has a connection to Notion to, you know, write these things for me. And because I've like set all of this up in a way that it has access to all of these things, it can start doing things across tools, and that's where the power comes from. And that's where the big time saving also comes from.
Question, Boris.
Yeah.
Are those tools like in Cloud Code itself that you're mentioning right now, or is it separated from Cloud Codes?
That's a good question. So I am going to elaborate a bit more on that later, but I can give you a quick overview. So there are different ways to connect tools. And some of them, you can connect them directly in Claude Code, in Claude Desktop app. And these are MCPs. And they're very simple. It's just like you open the desktop app, you click connectors, and then you kind of just like connect it there. You need to sign in, do like authentication into the other one and sign in. And then there are also like CLIs, which are kind of like little programs running on your computer that your Claude Code can use. And then there are also just APIs directly. So there are different methods to connect to these tools. And I can go into like the advantages and disadvantages of each later also. In general, I really like CLIs, and this tends to be, the CLIs are becoming a bit of a, I think, you know, like becoming the preferred method for a lot of people that build these connections.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So like you're in Claude Code. I spend all my time these days in Claude Cowork. Why choose Code over Cowork?
Yeah, that's a good question also. And to give you some like a history of what happened, Claude Code was actually developed around 1 year ago. I think they released like in February or March last year. And so that was the first product. And it was like they didn't even have a desktop app back then. It was kind of just you had to like open your terminal, and then you go like this into a specific folder, and then you type Claude, and then you see this here. this is like the original Claude code. It's like it's living in it's actually in itself a CLI tool, and it's living inside the terminal. And so and that's obviously like the name already reveals it. It was a tool that was actually built for developers. It's like built for coding. And what they over time found out was just that this tool is super powerful and people are using it not just for coding, but for a bunch of other things. And then they started adding all of these other features, like bringing it into the desktop app. And then I think it was, I forget when exactly, but a couple months ago only, they released Claude Cowork. And the purpose of that was kind of to take Claude Code, put it into a pretty UI so that other people that are not developers can also use the power of Claude Code. So in a way, it's very similar to Claude Code. It just has a nicer interface. You use it through the desktop app, but it also has some other restrictions. So it's so-called sandboxed. So that makes it a little bit more secure. Like every time you run a chat from in Cowork, it's kind of like creating a separate sort of like a copy of your machine, and it's only running inside of that. But that means that, for example, it cannot use the CLI tools which are on your machine. And CLI tools are, like really for people that install them and use them, these are really powerful. So I personally just much prefer to use Claude Code directly because it just gives me much more access and much more power. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think I saw one question from Zaman, which is for model controls protocols. We need to add the configurations into a JSON folder. That was a question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are a couple of different ways how to connect the MCPs. And they've actually made it by now pretty simple to do that. You can basically click here, go to connectors, and then you can add or browse one of their connectors that are in their marketplace. This is kind of like like the App Store. And then you can just add them. And then it will give you like a sign-in screen and you just add them. And so this is one way to do it, but the other way you mentioned is kind of also through like you can add them through like a JSON file. So that's kind of more the old school way of doing it. This is like the more, I guess, user-friendly way to do it. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I have one question though. Like I see Uber Eats. Does that mean that I could connect Uber Eats and then have AI order food for me?
Yeah,
Hmm.
it always depends on. So you see, I click on it, and then you can look into the tools that it actually has available. So
Awesome.
in this case, it's not a lot. It's just search and publish analytics. So that
Okay.
means you cannot actually order your food through it.
Got it. Got it.
And this limitation, which in like what tools they expose, is also very often the reason why I use either the API or a CLI, because often the CLI or the API can expose more tools.
Okay.
So
Got it.
one concrete example is like with like there's Drive. Okay, so it has a couple of tools here. Let me see. Do they have Sheet? No. So Google Sheet, for example, is not part of this, not part of their marketplace. But there's a CLI tool which I use, which has basically everything in it. So through the CLI tool, I can edit Google Sheets. I can, read them, like do whatever I want with it. There's like no shackles on it, no restrictions. But if I use Cowork only, then I don't have access to that because they've kind of only given me these MCPs and the tools are limited.
Got it. Got it. Makes a lot of sense. Perfect. Awesome. I won't ask any more questions, guys. Also, let's do some questions later. I have more to go deeper into. Anything else? And then we'll do another Q&A round, maybe a little bit later.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool.
Okay, let me also show you this one because this actually interfaces with like Google Drive, because I think that's like relevant for a lot of people just, using your Google Drive. And I'll just say, find all the APIs I have used before and organize them in a Google Sheet and upload to my Drive. And so what this will do is it will actually go through all of the memory and the history of my chats that I've had with my system. And it will collect like all of the APIs that I've used recently. And then it will put them all into a Google Sheet. Yeah. So it's so now it's doing the search, like run list of API key names, and basically looking inside of my folder structure and my memory and past sessions, like everywhere I've kind of mentioned APIs, everywhere I've talked about APIs. And now it's starting to create this Google Sheet. You can see here also I have bypass permissions mode on. And this basically means that I can, let me just admit this person here. Yeah. This means, so this is like a handy thing to do, because if you have it on these more restrictive permission modes, then it often, every time it runs a tool, it asks you, is this allowed? And this can get quite annoying over time, especially if it does a lot of tool calls within one chat. And so I just, put it on bypass permissions, and this way it kind of just auto approves it. So it's maybe a little bit less secure, because theoretically, the agent can go and do stuff, and I then cannot immediately stop it. But at the same time, it's just much more convenient for me because I don't need to keep approving things. Okay, so now it's still kind of building this Google Sheet. And what it did here also, I'm actually not sure if you can see it, but I have a file saved which just tells it how exactly what's a good way to like create these Google Sheets. So I have like a kind of SOP of how to create Google Sheets. And sometimes if it's doing the job right, then it will go and read that and use that as instruction to create the sheet in a better way. Okay, so here it was created, gave me a link to, there we go. So I just created this Google Sheet here. And these are like all of the APIs that I have used recently or talked about in my memory. Okay. All right, I can go into these other examples later, but this one, for example, is just like it interfaces with my CRM, which is Attio. So that's also connected, and then I can ask it like, in which stage are like some of my leads right now where I've sent the proposal, and then you can write a short custom follow-up to them, and it will just write these follow-ups for me and put them in Gmail. And this one is I've hooked it up to like image generation tools, so it can actually go and read an article and then generate like a thumbnail image for me for that article. And what it can also do, I can show you guys this later, it can actually interact with the browser itself. So I can tell it for some tools, for example, who are still very late to the party and have not created a CLI, MCP, or API, the only way to try to automate something is actually to go through the browser. So school, for example, they don't have any of that. And if you want to automate some kind of post there, for example, I have one like tiny automation, which is every time that OpenClaw publishes an update on Twitter, I wanted to like detect that and then basically create a summary and post it in my school community. But since school doesn't have an API, the only way to do that is to do it through the browser. So Claude Code can actually then just like open up a tab in the browser, click on the right places. It takes like screenshots and clicks on the right places, and then actually just makes that post for me. Yeah, so it's pretty crazy where what it can do now. Okay, so I think I'll go into this part now, which is kind of a bit of comparison between these different systems, and they're called in the like AI lingo, they're Claude Code and OpenClaw is called a harness. It's basically like you have a model, which is like the brain, and then you have a harness around it, which is like I guess the thing that you build around it to give it the ability to, for example, do tool calls and so on. And a lot of people ask, like, what is actually the difference between these? So first, the difference between ChatGPT and Claude Code. So ChatGPT is basically the way you know it in its original version is kind of just, as I mentioned before, you're chatting with some intelligence that is sitting inside of like a cloud environment. It's sitting on a server somewhere. You're chatting with it, you're sending your prompts there, and then you're getting answers back. And so they've built things into this over time. So for example, they've built in a memory feature over time. They actually didn't have that in the beginning. So ChatGPT can now like remember things about you and has its like own way to save that. They've also built in some tools over time. So a web search tool, for example. You maybe remember from the beginning, ChatGPT didn't have access to the web at all, and then they added this as a tool. Yeah, so this is what ChatGPT is. And then when Claude Code came out, the actual difference, actually, the main difference was just that Claude Code was something that is living locally on your machine, not something that is living in the server. So, as I showed you before, it's like in the terminal, you can run it. So it's a program that is living on your machine. And the fundamental difference of that is that because it's on your machine, it can do a lot of things much faster. Like it can access everything on your computer, like all of the programs, all of the files. And this like specifically for coding was a very useful thing because in code, when you're developing something, you need to read a lot of files at the same time, and then you need to write a lot of files at the same time, and it needs to all happen very quickly. If your code base was sitting on a server and you're trying to, modify it, it would always take ages to do that. And that's why the original use case of Claude Code is code. But of course, people eventually realized that, it's not just good for like changing a lot of code files at the same time, but it's actually super useful also like, I don't know, if you have like 10 ad scripts and you want to change the hook over all of them at the same time, so these kind of use case kind of evolved out of that. But fundamentally, it is similar in that it also has memory context, it has access to tools, but the difference is that it has access to all of the tools on your machine, not just the tools that it's given to on the server. Read and write files locally, and then it also has now, this is a pretty new feature, like basically automations. So it can trigger something and it can run something. And yeah, what's the difference to OpenClaw exactly? So you can kind of imagine OpenClaw like Claude Code, but it is more meant to be living on a separate machine, not your main machine. So in a way, it's like having Claude Code running on a machine by itself, and then you remotely accessing that machine. And the way you remotely access it is through a chat application like Telegram, WhatsApp, Slack. So they've built in support for all of these chat applications. And so what actually happens when you install OpenClaw, so for example, I have my OpenClaw installed on my other Mac, sitting here on my desk, not on my main machine, main Mac. And then if I want to interact with it, I use my Telegram here, and through these chats I can chat with it. But if I, for example, here tell it to, open up your browser, it will open up its browser on my other machine, right? So it has access to my entire machine here, and it can do things on this machine. And I guess the like reason to do that is just because it's more secure. Like if you give an like program access to an entire machine, it can do all kinds of things. And so you want to be a bit careful if you give it like unshackled access to your main machine, because that's where everything is saved. But this is not so much a problem with Claude Code, because Claude Code was fundamentally built to be on your main machine. Yeah, so that's kind of the difference between these. Any questions to that part?
I have one question.
Yeah.
When you were talking earlier about integrating Claude Code with Google Drive, is there any particular naming conventions or folder structure that we need to work with in order to make it actually be able to work with Google Drive and understand the business, because it has access to the whole Drive architecture?
Yeah, yes. That actually leads very well into this part. So I wanted to show you exactly the folder structure I have. And you're kind of talking about, I think, two things. Like one is the folder structure of how you should do it locally on the machine. And then also, I guess, the folder structure of how you should organize your Google Drive. And I can go into both. So yeah, let's go into this part. So what I've done with my Claude is I've essentially, I use my Claude Code not only like just like a chat. I've actually built some things into it which make it similar to some of the things that OpenClaw has, which is it gives it like its own personality in a sense. It gives it its own like memory. And so every time I chat with it, it's not just starting from a blank slate. It's like accumulating this memory and this context over time, and it gets smarter and smarter over time. And all of that is because I've just set up a folder structure and like several files inside of it. And this is what gives it that behavior. So I can show you this folder. So I just have this folder, like this is my main folder here. You can see my Finder window, right? Yeah. So this is my home folder, and then I've just created an extra, like a folder inside of that called Claudia. And this is my like Claude operating system. And inside of this folder, I have several very important files. So these three here, claude.md, identity, sol.md. And claude.md especially is the most important, because Claude Code has this like built-in behavior that every time it starts, it reads this file. So it like always looks inside of the folder that it is in right now, and it always first reads this file. So whatever instructions are inside of this file, that's kind of like its system prompt, like its main prompt that it always follows. And inside of this file, I've started with these other files are imported into every session. So you should first read all of these other files. So I'm basically using that file for it to read all of the other files first. And inside of these other files, there's a bunch of context. And then I have this part, which is, maybe I can make it a bit bigger. And then I have this part here, which is to manage the memory. So it says on every response before or after replying, run the memory loop. And essentially what it does, I've created a folder where it should save kind of like more short-term memory, more detailed memory. And then I've created another file which should save more long-term memory. This was something that was invented by the inventor of OpenClaw, this kind of system, but it works really well because you can save more like detailed stuff here, and then for things that are more important, it should kind of compress that and save it into your long-term memory. And this way you kind of keep these a bit separate. So yeah, this is how the memory part works. And then there are just some other key rules. And obviously you can, anything that's important and you want your Claude code to do every time that it runs, you should put it into this claude.md file. I think I heard a hand raise, or maybe not. Okay. Yeah. So there's a claude.md file. There's a identity.md file. This is a very small file. It just says the identity of my agent. Basically, it's just like your name is Claudia and just a little bit of information. And then there's a soul.md, which is more like how your agent should behave. So here you can add things like how I want it to talk to me, and just like defining its personality a little bit. And then in this file, I add information about myself, user.md. And then I can add like folders, which just has information about my businesses. And then this file is also super important, the tools.md, because every time I give it access to tools, I will add those tools inside of this file so that it learns and knows which tools it has access to and which one it can use. So this is also very important. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, the memory files. And then you kind of want one file also for storing all of your secrets, so like the API keys and so on. And you usually, that's the convention, you put it into a .env file. Okay, so this part is like the first thing you want to do when you set this up. And let's go back maybe quickly to this part. So there are some different ways how you can interact with it. Like the way that I use predominantly now is just through the desktop app. And you can see here, if I start a new session, I'm always starting it from my Claudia folder. So it's a local session and the Claudia folder is selected. If I want to work on some other folder, for example, this Agent OS folder here is actually where the new funnel that I built, where the website is inside of. So if I would go into that one, that's where like all of the code for my website and so on lives inside of. But if I go into my Claudia folder, that's like my personal assistant folder, and that's where I try to run like all of my operations from. The cool thing is also that, and this is also another benefit of Claude Code versus Cowork, is that Claude Code by default, even if you're in one folder, it like initially will read all of the information in that folder, but you can still tell it to just go and read the information in a different folder. So it really has access to your entire computer. Like it's not restricted to just one place. It can do everything on your computer that you can do, basically. Cool. All right, so the desktop app, that's just the UI I use right now mostly, because they just improved this like actually 2 weeks ago. Before that, you had to use it through the terminal mostly. And I think that's like one of the things that scared a lot of people off, because the terminal just like fundamentally looks like it's for developers. But yeah, now I hardly use that anymore. Like maybe like 5% of the time. And then the other way I also sometimes still use it is inside of so in this case, I use Cursor. It's actually a code editing tool, but I use it also just like kind of like a Notion, or just like a Word editor tool. And the reason is because like I can see all of my files here. So again, I'm inside of the Claudia folder. So these are all of the files inside of my Claudia folder. And if I open up a file, so for example, here I have the VSL script final opened up, and that is living inside of my, I have an agency folder and then foundation VSL scripts. And you know, this is the file where I actually wrote my VSL script. And because I'm inside of Cursor, I can, you know, just go and edit it. So it's like an actual editor. And the benefit here is that if I want to be a bit more precise with my edits, I have Claude Code here on the side, and I can actually, you can see here, I have currently, it's like this one is inside of the context, but I can basically also add like only this part into the context. And then it will know I have selected this. And like if I only want to edit this part, I can do that and basically say like, you know, change this part. So this also makes my editing of like my Word files much faster. Yeah. Okay. So this is how to interact with it. This is the folder structure. This is the part that I talked about before, which actually starts making it powerful, like giving it access to all of your tools. Now, as I mentioned, there are like CLI tools, which are actually just programs that you install them just like any other program. Just that CLI tools typically just live inside your terminal. So you install it on your computer. It's still like something that's running, but the interface of it is only text-based. It's like you only interface with it through your terminal. Whereas other programs, let's say Chrome, for example, or my Loom program or my Notion program, like I've also installed it on my computer, but they have like a UI interface that, you know, let me access it through the UI. But CLI tools don't have a UI, and you can use it through the terminal. And the benefit of CLIs is that your AI agents are also really good at using them. So my Claude Code, when it uses these CLI tools, is actually kind of spinning up like its own little terminal in the background, and it's like typing commands in there and using this other tool on my behalf. But it's all just running on my computer in the background, right? So earlier when I was showing you this demo of uploading it to Drive and so on, it's actually just using this CLI tool called GWS CLI, and it's kind of typing a couple of commands using that tool, and that's how it's able to, write something into the Google Drive. And yeah, a lot of software companies are now just racing to try to build this because they're noticing that the future of software is actually like the majority of the users of software are going to be agents, not humans. And now, like all of software until now has actually been built for humans. And that's why they all have interfaces and UIs, because, we humans need something visual to interact with that software. But now that there are agents, our main way is just like talking to our agent, and then we can tell our agent to go and interact with some other software. And the most efficient way for software to interact with other software is through one of these methods like APIs, MCPs, CLIs. Yeah, so one of the things, so MCP is kind of like, it's actually like APIs. So API was like the original way. It's just you have software and then you expose a couple of endpoints. You basically make them publicly available, and then other people can use them. So that's an API. And then at some point they developed MCPs, which is kind of the same thing as an API. It's just that it adds like a few more functionalities, which makes it easier for agents to interact with APIs. So one of the main things, for example, is that, with an API, you always have a documentation. You always need to read like this, endpoint number 1 does this, endpoint number 2 does this. Like with endpoint number 1, you can read, with endpoint number 2, you can like write, things like that. So in order to use an API, you always need to read the documentation as a human, like APIs was actually built for humans. But the way that MCPs are built is that they kind of like give the agent more context from the start about what endpoints it has available, sort of. So it just makes it a bit easier for agents to use this. But one of the downsides of MCPs, and that's why I think the whole industry is kind of starting to go more in the CLI direction, is that it uses up more context. And if you start adding like a bunch of MCPs, you will see from your chat that your context, not this one, but if I type context here, actually I should go into this chat. I can do context here. And this way it will tell me how much of my context I've used up. So a model has like a certain, you can think of it like it's memory, it's short-term memory. And once that fills up, it needs to like get rid of it or like compress it in order to continue working. And MCP tools typically use up a lot of memory. So here you can see if I've added a bunch of MCPs, it like starts to use up a lot of my tokens. And so MCPs are a little bit token inefficient in a way. Although, of course, they're also like making improvements to this protocol. So maybe that will change in the future. But right now, my favorite way is, I'll start to, if I want to use a software, I first look, is there a CLI? Because if there's a CLI, my agent can use it perfectly. And if not, then I'll check if there's an MCP or an API. Okay, and then they introduced skills, and with they I mean Anthropic. They introduced a feature called skills, which really you can imagine it kind of like the scene in Matrix, where Neo gets plugged in and then he just learns like the Kung Fu skill. So it's kind of like that, because a skill is just like a compressed version of how to do something. So kind of in a business, way of talking, it's kind of like an SOP. It just defines what exactly to do. And if I want to, for example, here earlier I was showing like this very simple example of getting the transcript, writing 3 similar scripts, and then uploading it to my Notion. So that actually in itself can be one skill. I can define it very clearly, turn it into one skill, and then it's very repeatable. So I can just say, hey, use that skill, and it will do exactly what I've defined in the skill. And so skills is a really useful thing for, defining once, and then you can call it repeatedly, whether you want to call it manually or whether you want to somehow trigger it through an automation. Here you can see a couple of skills that I've created. So content weekly plan, it's just basically like helping me create a weekly content plan. This one is ManyChat browser. So this basically uses the browser to go into my ManyChat, and it then clicks here. It looks at this giveaway template, it duplicates it, and it changes the link inside of it. And this way, when I post something on Instagram, it like always has a new like giveaway link basically for the post. So the limitations here are really like there are no limitations anymore. You can automate almost anything with skills, and then also with the routines that you set up. So routines are basically automations. So I can then create a skill for something, And by the way, I create all of these with the AI itself, right? I can just say like, hey, do this, do this, do this. And after we've done it once, I can just say, okay, now turn all of this into a skill. And then it creates its skill itself. And then I say, okay, now let's create a routine. And this routine just basically every Monday, it should just call this skill. And this way I have, like a CEO brief skill, which just every morning gives me like a brief of my summary of my Gmail and like my calendar and things like that I always order. I can also add some other items to it, but I just do it through the chat. So I don't need to like actually open up the UI and like find the product anymore and click them. And yeah, a bunch of other ones. The school post one that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, that's all part of that. Okay. Any questions here?
I mean, I got 8, but I think it's after the call that we can have a look into it. I mean, not after the call, but in the Q&A.
Yeah, I mean, you can go for it now. Actually, we're like 1 hour in, so
Yeah, go for it. Go for it, Ines.
Okay, awesome. So first of all, if we talk about you mentioning like several tools, the old school tools, like I'm not using old school, but like Zapier, etc. In the beginning, in the early stage, are there softwares that you would or tools that you would skip since we have Cloud Code and Claudia and all those tools? Does it make sense?
yes. Yeah, I think, this like old school tools of Zapier and N8N and Make and so on, I would skip
Yeah.
these now
Okay.
because they were great in their time back then. You could automate things with it, but
Yeah.
now they're just one prompt. You just say like what you want to have automated, and then it just Claude Code just basically writes a skill for you, and you just run the skill. And that's basically the same thing like a very complicated, step-by-step N8N automation.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. Second question, if I may, is actually there are like a lot of people doing these days, and it scares me a little bit also, using this automation and that automation. It's full of automation. And there are tools like we all saw Ironman and things like Jarvis and Olivia. I've seen it. You've probably seen it too. Are those things that we can do as well, or are there separated things to it? Since you mentioned you can basically do anything.
I didn't quite understand the question.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, like tools like Jarvis, tools like Olivia, how many people did you call today? How many follow-ups, everything. Those kind of things that we can talk to and speak to agents and have them done work for us, like outreach and all of those tools. Can we do that as well? Or is this part of the system that you're presenting today?
Yes, in a way it is it's like similar. So for example, here I have a high level overview of some of the systems that I have. And if you want to like string together a bigger system, so for example, a content system, right? Which like if you think about how actually content is produced, if you think about it from a media director perspective, they have like a lot of different things that they do. They like need to come up with ideas, they need to do the like weekly planning, they need to write the scripts, filming, uploading, posting, like there are a lot of different steps there. And if you build out these bigger systems, how you build them is actually you just like they're basically a collection of a bunch of different skills and different tools all strung together. And yeah, so the systems that you're talking about are probably just a collection of like little pieces.
So then, in addition to that question, it's also to like, since you're mentioning like you can even automate school posts, you can then also, since I see it here on your screen, like automatically post LinkedIn posts and Instagram posts throughout the system. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
And is it all done in Cloud Code, or you know, or is it like using a couple of different things, like you mentioned in the package, to then drop it somewhere to finalize the whole thing together?
Yeah, it's kind of, so Claude Code is like the operating layer of it.
Yeah.
And then it will, you know, like in my first example with getting the transcripts, right? Like here, get the transcript and write the scripts and then save them. So you have Claude Code as the central layer, and then it will decide, okay, I want to first get the transcript. So it will go and use a tool to get the transcript. So it's using tool number 1 to get the transcript. Then it's maybe within that, it's kind of like using several different tools to, you know, download it and actually turn it from audio into text and so on. And then it's like using its own Claude intelligence to read that and then write the 3 different scripts. And you know, it's writing these scripts and kind of saving it inside its own short-term memory for now. And then it's deciding to get another tool which allows it to write to Notion. And then it's, you know, like using those scripts and uploading them to Notion.
Yeah.
So at the center of it is Claude Code. But it's just deciding that it can use tools. So it's like it's actually like a human, if you want to, you know, make the analogy. It's like we humans, we decide, you know, I first open up the Instagram page, I download it, I do this and this, and then I use that tool to do this and this, and so on.
And is it just me, or does it seem, when you have no clue about AI, just like I had no clue about ads in the beginning, but is it normal for me that I want to get started doing all sorts of things with this, the thing you were presenting throughout this call, etc. But it seems such a headache in the beginning. Like, you're talking about a transcript, and I think like, okay, I want to get this transcript done because that's the first layer. But then how do I get started with it? You know, how do we get started with all of those things that you're presenting in a way? Does that make sense?
The first step that I recommend to do, and what I've, for example, done with Milan, because I'm you know, working with Milan to build basically this content system for you guys, for FYS. And the first thing we did was to set up this. So we set up the folder structure and like make sure that he knows how to use the desktop app and basically interact with this, because this is the foundation. This means that every time you have a chat with it here, it starts remembering stuff. And, you know, as you add more tools to it, it starts to accumulate. And the first tool that we added was actually GWS CLI, because, you know, we build out the content system that it can live inside of Google Drive. So the ideas, like an ideas document, the scripts and so on, they should all live inside of Google Drive. And that's when we installed this tool, so that the Claude Code can easily write to Google Drive and like create Google Sheets and Google Docs and so on. So yeah, that's the first step. And then it just becomes mostly about like adding more tools, creating more skills, and then creating routines. So that's, you know, that's like that's how you would go about it.
Okay. I think I asked most of them already, so I'll let someone else go.
Awesome. Thanks. I think Oscar, you raised your hand.
Yes, thank you. So I do have a question about cost. So is my understanding correct then that when you call upon these AI tools, they use a certain amount of tokens to think, to perform tasks, to write back to you? The system that you have set up for your business, if you're willing to share, of course, maybe a range, but roughly how much does it cost for you per month? And for someone who runs a smaller scale business, for now at least, what do you estimate the cost could be, you know, for that kind of business?
Yeah. So I've used OpenClaw a lot in the time from when it came out. And one of the things about OpenClaw is that it can get expensive if you don't like hook it up to the right models. But since a couple of weeks, I've switched completely over to Claude, like just my Claude code system, because I just find it more reliable. And the benefit there is also the cost. So I have here, if you go into the settings here, and you can see from the usage, there are several different plans that you can subscribe to. The lowest paid one, I think, is $20 per month. And then there's one which is $100 per month, and then another one for $200 per month. And I'm currently on the $100 per month. And as you can see from my usage limits here, so this is the important one. This says it's resetting, so it's resets every week, and I'm nowhere close to hitting that actually. So I'm still well within my usage limits on the $100 plan. So right now, from the Claude Code perspective, it's $100, and then it's like the other tools sometimes, will have their own subscription. So if we go into some of these, like, okay, GWS CLI is completely free. This one I'm subscribed to. This is for posting to social media. I think it's like 20 per month. My CRM, I think right now I'm on the free plan. So yeah, this does, like, depending on your usage, it can accumulate, of course. But a lot of them, if you're just using if you're on the free plan, you can very often still access the API, and then you don't need to pay anything. So I don't know, it's hard to estimate my total cost for my software usage, but I would say, Claude Code is definitely the biggest chunk, 100. And then if you add all of the other tools together, maybe it comes to around like 300 or something.
Okay, so roughly 300 a month if you use the full, extent of tools that you have shown us today.
Yeah, exactly. Although, you can start with 20 and then use like upgrade as you need more.
Okay. Because for me personally, and I don't want to stretch out this question for too long, so I'm just going to quickly, give my own situation. I have essentially just been using the basic ChatGPT subscription. That's been, quite sufficient for me. But obviously, things are moving in a direction of involving AI more heavily into, your daily work, and which is why I jumped on this, masterclass as soon as I saw it. And but essentially, what you're saying is, with the $100 subscription per month, you get access to Claude Code, and for small-sized businesses, that should be sufficient, and that amount should likely not be exceeded as well on a monthly basis.
Yeah, $100 is totally enough.
Okay, thank you very much.
To add to that
sure.
question from Oscar, do you still use ChatGPT, or have you moved over completely to Claude Code? And if so, why would you recommend the people that are here to maybe do the same?
Yeah, I have moved pretty much completely over to Claude. And I think even since from the beginning, I've always been leaning more towards Claude. I always thought it was, the better model. And they've, recently started gaining much more attention, like from a more mainstream side. But yeah, on the ChatGPT, I'm still subscribed to the $20 plan. I hardly use it. I just have it connected to my OpenClaw, which now I'm also using less and less since I set up my Claude OS. And I've, pretty much moved over completely to Claude. Yeah.
Got it.
I would, like, I think it's a race between those companies. It's like Apple versus Microsoft, and like maybe the next model that OpenAI comes out with is much better, and then the sentiment kind of shifts again, and then more people use OpenAI. But the last few months, like, there's been a crazy Anthropic hype, and it just shows that or like people just find the model better, and it works better in a lot of the use cases.
Okay, cool, got it.
Yeah, I think Sjord also raised a hand.
Yes, thank you. That was really good. So, like, I'm mostly using Claude Cowork, but would you advise then to start using Claude Code instead, or could you do what you do in Claude Cowork?
You can do a lot of the things in Claude Cowork. Yes, definitely. It's the easier entry tool, I would say. It's a bit more user friendly, easier to use. But I think you start to hit some restrictions at some point. For example, GWS, like you cannot really use it, and for me that's just like a really big factor. So I think if you want the full power, use Claude Code. I would recommend using that. Yeah.
The other thing I kind of like about Claude Cowork is that it's sitting in a folder on my computer, so that like I have a lot of conversations with people about money, so they're quite confidential. So then I'm not uploading it to the cloud. But I've been trying to get Claude to take the transcripts from those calls. Like today, I must have had like 7 calls, and like there's a ton of post ideas within those calls. How do I like in an easy way can extract the post ideas and bring them to like the different platforms in either video or pictures or like LinkedIn posts? I've been trying to do it, and I have like a content calendar set up in Notion, and it writes the post and uploads it to the content calendar, but it's just not quite there yet. How would you do that?
You think it's not there yet in terms of the quality that it writes it, or?
Yeah, like the quality that it writes it, and then I only do it on. So basically, I gave it like a structure, like on Monday do this type of post, on Tuesday do this type of post, and it's like so there's quite a lot there, and then it either gets the post right, or the type of post is not completely right, or the post it's written isn't very strong. So like, am I trying to do too much at once, and should I do it maybe one step at a time, like analyze this post, extract it for ideas, and then turn those ideas into posts, and then maybe reformat those posts into posts for different channels, for example? Like, how do I even get started doing that?
Yeah, I think usually if the result of the writing is not good enough, not good enough for your standards, the best way to fix it is to have a bunch of examples of how you want it to be.
Yeah.
And basically like feed that into the context. That's usually the thing that has the biggest impact. A similar thing you can do is you can take like 5 posts of examples, and then first turn it into a template. So basically extract that, turn it into a template, and then use that template to have it right. That can also work quite well.
Okay. Yeah, so then would you like kind of give the like writing instructions as a skill?
Yeah.
And make
Yeah,
sure
exactly.
that it sticks to that.
So I, for example, have let me show you. So here I was, to create the like new funnel and all of the things that I was creating in the last 2 weeks as part of the program. What I did first was I created this folder here, and I like first kind of extracted a bunch of other VSL scripts that I liked. So I put all of them here as as examples for it to read. And I've also put like the VSL framework that you guys provided. So I put all of that into context, And then I have where was that? I think it was something like a tone or something. Anyways, I had a file which describes exactly, like, has a lot of rules about how I like writing to be done. And then if the tone of the writing didn't quite match, I'll say, read this file and like work through it again and make it, sound more according to those writing rules. And that can also help.
Okay.
And if you want, I can also share that file with you, because yeah, that's
Yeah, like
helped me.
I have a really cool writing guide. I just don't know how to apply it to everything AI writes for me.
Yeah, then yeah, definitely put it into a skill and just, say at the end, like either at the beginning, just use that to write, or after you've written, run over it again using this file.
Okay. And do I do that in a way then that it like you said there before, that it automatically reads that at the beginning of every session?
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you can kind of make it part of the skill,
Yeah.
and so it knows that. Yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, make sure that the file is obviously, inside of the folder so it can reference it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, sure. Yeah, Ilias?
Yeah, got three more actually. One is in addition to Stuart's question, is he mentioned, like, from my understanding, he has the post, he has the scripts and everything. Can we like then automate it too? Like just post it without hesitation, without putting it into a draft, just post the post on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and all? All of those scripts that he automatically generated?
Yeah, you could, if you trust it enough and have gone through the process several times, and you see that the post that it just generates without any editing is good enough for you, then the best way is to hook it up to a tool that does it for you. So, for example, this tool that I mentioned, Post-its,
Oh,
it's like a social media scheduling tool, and I can then just basically, like prepare all of the posts, but like Claude Code prepares all of the posts, and then it uses this tool to just post it on LinkedIn and so on.
yeah.
Like I use this one to post my videos, for example.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Thanks. Second question is, you mentioned you use Notion and Cursor, kind of similar to Notion. Would there be a recommended for us? Like, because I don't have Notion right now. I use ClickUp. But I'm thinking of switching over to Notion, but then I saw you mentioning Cursor, so
Yeah. Yeah, I would say if you're looking for like a Word document tool, Notion is really good. I like it. It just doesn't have, and that's why I use Cursor. It doesn't, like, it has an AI native AI feature. But for example, if I'm inside of my my Notion and I want to, I like I have these Word documents here and I want to edit certain sections of it. I can't do it very efficiently. Like, it's good to use my Claude Code to write the entire file, or like, make edits across a bunch of files. But if I want to make very precise edits, I would need to use the Notion,
yeah,
their own AI, and that's the reason why I use Cursor, because here I can just like use Claude Code on the side.
got it. Okay. And then last small question on my side is, you mentioned the old schools like Zapier, Make, all of those tools. You can skip it by just using one thing. Where do I have to then, let's say I would skip Zapier, skip Make, where do I have to then paste it in, like the whole, you know what I mean, right? The whole
Yeah.
thing of Zapier. It's a really difficult language, the AI.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So, I have, the process is you create a skill, And the skills are, you can like access them here if you just type / something. So these are my some of the skills I have. You know, I showed some of these earlier.
But then they're not pre-built, right? You've created them at first in your folders.
Yeah, exactly. Some I've created myself. Some are just downloaded from other people that have created it. I
Yeah.
just download there. And then they're all saved actually locally inside of this folder. So all of these are skills.
Got it.
These, for example, I've downloaded. And then these are the ones I created myself. And then there are also, so these are the skills that are locally inside of this folder. And then there are also skills which are globally from on my entire computer, kind of. So the management of it is still, you know,
Yeah.
I think they will improve it over time. But yeah, first step is you create a skill. So the SOP basically, and then you create a routine, which is essentially a trigger. So you can go here, routine, and then I would usually do the local one. And you can, like, this is the UI to create the routine. So here you could just say, you know, I can schedule it daily at 9 and then just say like, call Elias skill. And that's pretty much it. Like this way you can just create it and then every day at 9 it will basically call that skill and run through the instructions that you've saved. So that's the UI way of creating it. But usually the way I create it is just, I can also within the chat, I can just say, turn this into a routine, and then it will just create it here. It will just show up.
Got it. And once then it learns the skill, you can then start using prompts to use that skill to replace Zapier automations, for example.
Yeah. So one, I would say like one of these entries, so the Gmail summary, for example, is like one automation, because it's like if you were to build this exact one in Zapier or in N8N, it would be, you know, step 1 is there's a trigger. Step 2 is it reads all of my Gmail stuff. Step 3, it summarizes all of my Gmail stuff. So it uses like an AI step to summarize it.
Yeah.
And then it step 4 is maybe it reads my calendar. Step 5 is it reads some other tool, summarizes, and then it outputs it step 6. But all of these are just like one skill now. It's just one like Word file essentially, which says do this, do this, do this, do this, use this tool, and then output it.
Got it. Right. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Zaman, you also had a question.
Thanks, bro. I'm curious where Obsidian plays into the system architecture. What can we replace and what are the advantages of using Obsidian?
Yeah, good question. A lot of people, instead of using Cursor here, they use Obsidian. And I've kind of, I still have on my list to give it another try and see if I can see if it will replace my Cursor usage. Because so Obsidian is a tool which is like basically built for reading these markdown files in a reading and editing these markdown files. And markdown is kind of just this format of you know, like these like local Word files basically. And agents have kind of just like I guess like drifted towards mostly using these markdown files because they're very easy to read format. But yeah, Obsidian is just a program which, you know, can read these and then you can edit them. So it's like Word, but for markdown files. And the, I guess, main USP of Obsidian is like that it's you know, reading markdown files, and markdown files typically live on your computer, so it's more secure and things like that. It's like not hosted in the cloud, although they also have this feature that you can sync it to the cloud and so on. And one other feature that a lot of people like about Obsidian is that you can start creating links between your documents. So you can have like this document link another document, and then Obsidian somehow, because they're linked together, you like over time build this map of how all of these documents are linked together, and that just gives it like more context and more information. So you're kind of
There's more
building like a knowledge
visualization
map.
as well, so you can see this real time, kind of like N8N. It helps you visualize the system design.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the main features why people love Obsidian. And I've also seen recently that there's like a plugin how you can bring in Claude Code. So yeah, as I said, I want to try out Obsidian again at some time. It might replace my cursor.
Cool. Sounds good. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, sure. Jelle.
Yes. Hey, man.
Hi.
So, first of all, a lot of value. I have some quick questions. So I have a team where we do meta ads for clients. And basically my question is, how would you advise for them to use Claude?
Yeah. So I can show you one cool thing. I've set this up recently. It's called, so use pipeboard to get my meta ads info. So I've connected this pipeboard MCP it is. I think you find it also here in the marketplace. And it connects to your meta ad account. And so you can very easily like just extract all of your basically information inside of your meta ads account. For example, get the analytics and things like that, and have your agent analyze it. But I think you can even use it, and I'm planning to do that together with Elias to like just basically manage my ads in the future. So I think you can also use it to like create your campaigns and like create your ad sets and all of these things in a much faster way. So here you can see, it has access to my ad accounts, and then have tools available to create ads and put them live. So I think it does. Yes, Meta Ads MCP gives me full create and publish capability. Create campaign, create ad set. So yeah, it can do everything basically. So I can, run my entire like ad stuff through here. And like I guess that's the tool to unlock how you can create an autonomous system here, because you can then build something like this with my content system. You can basically think about like, okay, I have like some way to read all of this information from my meta ad account. Then I maybe build some way how like I find out about new ads or like new inspiration. And then I create like a skill to write new ad scripts based on that inspiration, and then turn it into images, or you can even like create, hook it up to like tools like HeyGen to create video ads, and then push them all out through this tool again. And this, becomes like you can build like a system which autonomously runs meta ads for you.
Yeah, okay, that's clear. That's great. I have this other question about websites, because we also have like a website department, and we're looking to build a website with Cloud Code. But what do you think which is the best way to do that?
Yeah, Claude Code is pretty good for that. So I've built the VSL website basically. I just built it completely in Claude Code, and I didn't write a single line of code for it. I just prompted it and it just created it for me. So it is pretty good at this stuff. This is like creating the front end is now relatively easy for AI to do. So you can definitely do it. I think the difficult part is just I guess like knowing a little bit about how you should like structure it in a proper way, and then maybe also which tools to use at which step. So for example, after I've created the code locally, this is my the Agent OS website basically. So I've used these chats to create the code, and I can show you what this looks like then.
Because do you also have
So-
like a certain tool stack for this?
Sorry?
So
What
do you
did you
also
say?
have like a certain tool stack to?
I didn't understand that word.
I
Boost
think
stack?
my connection is a little bit.
Yeah.
Tool stack.
Tool stack. Yeah. Let me think. So I have, yeah, Claude Code, and then for hosting, Vercel. For the actual framework of the website, I use Next.js. And then for like some of the UI stuff, I use ShadCN. So it starts with I open Claude Code and I tell it create a Next.js project and install also ShadCN. And from there, you can start prompting it to create the UI for you. And then once you're done with that, you need to hook it up to GitHub. So you create a GitHub account, you upload it into the GitHub account, and then you can host it on Vercel. And that's where you get the live link. So I think that's the tool stack roughly for that, yeah.
Yes, okay, that's clear. That's great.
Yeah. And yeah, the reason I did it this way, like obviously the funnel, I could also build it. And here's, by the way, I wanted to go into this, but I think we don't have too much time now. But you know, this is the funnel that I've like built out now, this like new funnel. And these are the steps I went through. So I basically used AI at every step here, like writing the VSL copy, coding the website, as I mentioned, and then like the automations to power certain things there. I basically like hooked it up to Attio, had my Claude Code take over the browser to create like some of the things inside of Attio. So here, for example, like to make sure that my when call is booked on Calendly, that then my deals are properly updated in my CRM. I've like have a little automation here inside of Attio, which my Claude Code has built for me. So yeah, I, use Claude Code throughout this whole step. For the post booking emails, I actually just had it like write the emails. So they are here. I basically just said like, hey, write the emails, and then they are all here. And then I said, okay, now upload them to Resend, which is this emails sending tool. And then they all showed up here. So it then just like through the API connected and just created this automation here and just uploaded my emails there. So through like a couple of chats, I, created like a email automation in a way. Yeah, just, and one of the reasons I picked Resend is because they have a good API. So I just try to look for tools that have good API CLIs or MCPs now, because Claude Code can then do everything for me. Yeah. Cool. Any more questions?
Not for now, for me.
Okay, cool. Well, I hope this was helpful. And yeah, if you have any more questions afterwards, or if you want to get help implementing this, just DM me in school and we can talk further.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's been very, very valuable.
There you go.
Yeah, that was sick. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
Next
You too.
level, Moritz. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.